Welcome to the labyrinth. It watches those it leads astray. Stare too long at a wall, and it will design for you a trap. We travel its deceitful corridors in search of dreams we cannot catch, lures that allude to better paths. Many are led astray. They walk the halls of darkness seeking light they seldom find. The labyrinth is everywhere, shifting, moving walls that block the curious and drive them insane with meandering. It mocks those who search, who pattern search, who leave breadcrumbs as markers, who scratch waymarks on walls that erase their efforts. The labyrinth defies those who touch. It's bitter to the taste. It echoes noises unfamiliar, is visible in glimpses that pass out of memory, and entices with aromas those it leads into pits and mires. We are born into this maze of Midgard and made to believe that the true path is found in wise instruction, in ancient sayings difficult to know, in the words of gods penned in the candlelight of sycophants. That's right, I said psycho. This labyrinth exults in the brilliant, in the intrepid researcher. It takes pleasure in the efforts of genius, and it has observed countless billions of souls lose themselves in its dark passages and hallways. False signs, the burning torches of strange fire, lying statues, the labyrinth leads astray the whole world, past and present, ever seeking to lead its victims into portals that only lead them back into the maze. But there is one the labyrinth fears, the soul that stops following the design of the demiurge and only looks within. This soul ceases to see the world through sight and begins to follow the inner light. This individual the labyrinth cannot contain, for they no longer follow strange fire. There are many of us inside this maze, but the more we contemplate this environment we find ourselves to be in, the more it seems to unravel, to be constructed of the same substance as dreams. If the earth was the size of a pea, the sun would be the size of a beach ball 8 miles away. And this model is proportionately true of the electron nucleus of an atom. The area of an atom is less than 0.0001% mass, with orbiting electrons moving at speeds so fast as to create a shell that holds nothing. Even the nucleus of an atom, when magnified, dissolves into an oscillating field of pure energy. So with mass, we have trillions of spaces of 0.0001% mass that do not touch each other that we call physical reality. A vast backfield of empty space by which all perceived phenomena manifests. This is not the real universe, but a containment shell, a manufactured illusion of reality. It is the holosphere. Greater minds than I refer to this experience as a simulation. That I exist within a simulated reality that mimics physicality by projecting for me a world that exchanges information via my 5 physical senses. I know that by virtue of imagination, intent, and activity, I can create my own reality within this series of simulated holograms. If I am immersed within a medium of holography that also spans the entire present human experience, then I am connected to every other human alive. And my imagination and thoughts must have some power to alter the coding of my own and the lives of others. To me, thoughts carry more substance than the physical world constructed of merely oscillating energy fields. We are complex biograms, a spiritual software passing from one-dimensional matrix to another. The answers lie not in the book, but in the reader. In my experience, I found many religionists to be a miserable lot, pious, judging the world to condemn themselves, believing that the outside world of phenomena was not in some way projected from within, seeking in a destination they believe is hidden despite the mouth of wisdom once saying, "The kingdom of God is within you." In the interludes between journeys or lifetimes, we remember who we are and where we're going. Each life allows us to experience reality from a different vantage point because a perfect Godhead would not condemn the ignorant. And until a soul has fulfilled all of their birth-death journeys, they remain without knowledge, innocent. This is why the selfless act of an instant can erase a lifetime of guilt. Guilt is a debt to be spiritually discharged by acts that positively affect others, for we are all at different stages of immortal development. Reality is a whole sphere of activity, multi-dimensional programming wherein flow billions of spiritual subroutines. Death is not an escape. It's a renewal, a return to youth to live through a system reboot to acquire more experiences. Religions are archaic software, governors set in place to maintain spiritual arrested development. Religions instill guilt, but the Godhead is beyond good and evil. Only by freedom and error can spirits truly grow. The hardware ages and passes, but the intellect and emotion, spiritual qualities, live on. One's belief influences the direction their programming will assume. It is entirely up to the dying as to where their programming will have them appear next. A confident person, pleased with how they had lived their life, is reborn into better circumstances that reflect that confidence. The soul that believes that they had done horrible things in life reflects that programming when they die or in their exit from this holography. Guilt is an illusion. It is self-imposed, a dark programming to be ignored. Be at peace. Know that mistakes, failures, even temporary misdeeds do not permanently weaken the divine architecture that is your immortal personality. We break free or die trying, knowing with confidence that no matter the shadowy valleys we have stumbled through, we were deemed worthy in the first place to be sent into this experience. Though we can lead one to water, we cannot make him drink. 20 centuries ago, Tacitus remarked that there are those among men who could not even by disasters be brought to the truth. Many of these individuals are our educators. Our teachers today assume too much, believing that in their short lifetimes, in the present, they have discovered fact from fictions they perceive from the records passed down from distant millennia. Though our predecessors left behind standing monuments we cannot replicate today, even with the benefits of modern technology and engineering, as well as mysteries to be virtually unsolvable while employing today's interpretive standards, which are too restrictive, we are steadily brainwashed into believing that the accounts these people left behind for future discovery are not accurate reflections of ancient happenings or ideals. This prejudicial mindset is in direct opposition to all logic and reason because these records are universal. We owe those before us everything we hold true today. Plato wrote in his Symposium that knowledge of any given subject is actually a recollection after a departure of knowledge. Because he wrote that knowledge is a recollection, this necessarily implies a previous time in which we have learned that which now we recollect. Enter Pliny and Lucretius and Thales, Eratosthenes, Aristarchus, stewards of knowledge that had been preserved from even more remote sciences and observations that had collapsed long before these researchers penetrated these mysteries. Plato's own beliefs were partially due to the teachings of his mentor Socrates, who himself taught that his own words were but echoes of more ancient things. According to the Book of Sirach, an old text of uncertain age rediscovered by the rabbi named Sirach and later included in the Old Testament Apocrypha, the end of the world was recorded and written down in the beginning. This is our position too, that the Revelation record was remembered under many variant forms by cultures around the world. John's version of the New Testament being a reemergence of this arcane knowledge previously known and revisited among men in the form of the vision to John, preserved by Cerinthius from the older Sibylline prophecies. The original Word of God was known universally, but the original religion and its spiritual tenets was fragmented and devolved into many fossilized and impossibly complex pantheistic systems. But the mysteries and like traditions preserve sacred pieces of the whole, no one people retaining the entire truth. They individually protected jealously many elements of the original ideas while hidden behind cultural customs or cleverly masked other pieces of this archaic puzzle, themselves eventually becoming lost to the corruptions with the passage of centuries and even millennia. But despite all this, from the very outset of history, after this fragmentation of divine knowledge due to a cataclysm, we have contrived to retain our ignorance in order to enjoy an almost inconceivable freedom. According to our philosopher Nietzsche, blindly ignoring that as stewards of knowledge, we have a spiritual responsibility to disseminate the information that comes before us. Truth has become disagreeable, so we have allowed fictitious concepts to drag knowledge around like a slave, as Aristotle once put it in his phenomenal work titled Ethics. The modern sage and pyramid researcher Swallow Lewis noted this trend in modern times, noting that the scientific world likes to invest their faith in things that are stripped of all meaning, while other more meaningful and reasonable explanations are disregarded as fantasy and illusion. Our scientists today are deluded through stringent standards of fact-finding that serve to omit information rather than collate it. But this today is no different than that of Lucretius' time, who could have been writing about the scientists of today when he wrote over 2,000 years ago. What wonder is it then if the mind misses everything except what it itself is intent upon? So from small signs we draw great inferences and lead ourselves into error and delusion. That's Lucretius. Because the truth is too impossible for scholarship to grasp, historians adamantly conclude and pass off as fact that the similarities between divergent theologies and civilizations and their records found continents apart was simply due to borrowing, migrations, and the impossible to prove collective unconsciousness of humanity. The truth is merely fantastic and therefore untrue, unacceptable, and any theory advanced that could even be remotely tenable is postulated to the direct contradiction of all known evidence. But while this is the method of the mundane, of intellectuals pretending to assume the throne of gods and of those firmly entrenched in theological dogmas believing themselves allied to God, there are those today who, like the ancient Greeks, do not believe in chance and coincidence. It was the ever-searching of the Greek philosophers to uncover the source of these mechanics and the mysteries of nature, phenomena which were recognized as extensions of the attributes of God. For the entire universe was but a mental image of the Creator. This deity is beyond good and evil, beyond truth and error, beyond right or wrong. This being has always allowed his most cherished children to stumble down paths of danger and darkness in their journey toward the light. In a world where everything is false but only different by degrees, then a clearer picture of why we are here begins to take focus. In a life where every path is an admixture of fact and fiction, a soup stirred by both the demiurge and the divine, then nothing in this environment can really matter. The distractions, knowledge's attainments, and conclusions are also temporal. They cannot be relevant to an immortal soul passing through, say, so chaotic a recipe. In this life, we have been led to the water, but it's not a substance to drink. It has never been out in the world we have found ourselves stumbling through. This water is only discovered from within. I want to share with you a secret if you're willing to hear it. Under cover of moonlight, they assembled, all approaching the seers of the grove, doing so in silence. The most holy place, a stone altar, a dolmen, sacred circle of trees. The ancient Israelites were a loosely confederated people of ancient Syria and Canaan related to the Hurrians, an Amorite group. The people of the East called them the Amuru, or Westerners, and they feared their intellect and their independence. The materialistic Egyptians hated them, calling them the Hyksos. To the south, the people of Edom, later to be known as the Jews, envied and despised the Israelites, a hatred that continues today. These ancient men of the groves were later, after many migrations, greatly revered as the Druids. The secrets these men protected of oak and alder, willow and cedars of Lebanon were believed by all, because the Druid spoke and his word became the will of the trees. You can speak in like manner. Trees are alive. They communicate with each other. Their roots are vast neural networks with electromagnetic pulses conveying vast amounts of information. A tree knows what the forest knows. It feels the signals passing through the deeper waters, the messages contained in rocks. The tree feels the skies by 10,000 resonators we call leaves that feel the vibrations carried from afar. If you were the Druid, then you would find a quiet place. You would find your tree. It would be located in your secret grove. Because this tree is constructed with an interactive holosphere of flowing data, because this tree is connected to, enmeshed with, and a reflection of everything else in the perceivable reality, this tree can serve you as a conduit of communication between you and the reality you seek to bring about. The world of phenomena is magically responsive. Be the Druid. Speak those things you seek to experience to your tree, and know it is certain that these thought constructs will be absorbed into the holographic essence of the tree itself, flow through its branches, to emit through the air and travel at light speed through underground signals to every point of living geometry in your reality tunnels. What you speak as true to the tree will assume to be true and become a powerful broadcaster of your intent. We live in the simulacrum, and this environment has nodes of activity that serve as tools. I assure you, my friends, there is power in the groves. Every moment we are alive, we carry with us a bioresonant field, an auric energy containing the sum total of every thought you have ever possessed, or has possessed you. You are the memories you believe to be true, the desires you have carried, the emotions you have allowed to direct the rhythm of your ways. You are way more than you suppose yourself to be, an immortal imprisoned in sense perceptions designed to induce you to believe in a biology that is subject to external causes, in a present that exists solely due to a random past, in societies that serve to distract you from learning who and what you really are. Our current reality is a containment field orchestrated to keep you distracted, disenchanted, disinherited. Nothing is more powerful than the awakened human. No chains can restrain, no barriers can prevent entrance, no riddles remain unanswered, no dungeon of this demiurge can stamp out the eternal fire of a soul that is ignited. The living do not fear death. The veil is a friend to all who comprehend that death is the gate of the holy, the passage of those who hurt, who wage the war of life, those who carry burdens no others would lift. The war over good and evil, light and darkness of the heavens and the hells has never been our war. We humans are guiltless. An enemy has striven for eons to blind humanity from seeing that the creation is our inheritance, that we will soon replace those who have fallen, that we are the Godhead shattered into 100 billion personalities flowing through simulated reality tunnels, all constructed as traps designed to deceive we immortals, that we had to fear the veil, that death was an end and not an escape from a holospheric cocoon. Who we are has much to do with where we have been. There are some among us who suffer a divine disease, an inability to keep quiet. I am one of these people who constantly pull secrets from the reserves they didn't even know they contained. If you believe the age of prophets was thousands of years ago, then very soon you are going to be shocked. An order of seers is emerging right now in society. They are about to begin raising standards against this darkness of our world that has not been experienced since before the cataclysm. As you listen, our enemy strives to flood human consciousness with innumerous theories about the past and nature of reality. A desperate attempt to create diversion to keep as many souls as possible from identifying and joining the lightbearers, to keep the majority as victims rather than victors. Know that when the darkness begins to move on multiple fronts, it is because the light has surfaced somewhere and the light bearer is moving. Remember, there are no accidental meetings between souls. You found Archaix because something you are searching for is within these posts, articles, and videos. The hordes of the Demiurge are unable to break the bonds that are forged between kindred souls. The storm is coming. It takes on forms of deceit that attempt to ensnare. We are navigators on a sea that tries to swallow us before we can find the guidance of a lighthouse. But in Archaix, on this YouTube channel, on Archaix.com, we will direct the willing through dark waters. When I am driving, lost in my own thoughts, my mind wanders. Though I'm moving from location to location, something takes over and I find it's not really me driving anymore. A kind of meditative spell comes over me. In this state, my mind begins moving far beyond the confines of my vehicle. Can you sit still and gather your thoughts? Are you able to remain unmoving in your mind as your body lies inert? Or are you like me? The more I struggle to calm my thoughts, the more I am pulled in different directions, as if there was a me inside of me separate from the body that hasn't moved. What is this pull toward ideas, concepts, and thoughts that I know that are not my own? I still, but the tempest in my mind struggles to moor itself to something familiar. When you close your eyes, who are you? I am free of this avatar, albeit temporarily. When I close my eyes, my attention can't seem to focus on any one thing. I am immersed within a thought field, a quantum medium that saturates me in waves. Or is it particles? Enter the pendulum state. The imagery and information that passes through my mind is invasive, and the sensation that my soul is moving wars against the realization that the thought field is what is moving and pummeling me with these thoughts. The sight behind my eyes then sees that there is no unknowns, only an I don't know. I can find no secrets unreachable, only I see those who refuse to reach. There is no darkness, only there are those who've lost their light. At the end of my journey, I grew tired. The world had lost its spark. This dungeon of the Demiurge was no longer a place I sought to stay. And when I made up my mind that it was time to go, Loki laughed at me. My eyes shut. I cannot control the sensation of being unmoored. I fall overboard as Odysseus sails onward, unaware of his loss. I sink into the wine-dark sea, to the sea bottom where the half-buried ruins of long-forgotten civilizations lie in silent timelessness. I am swept in currents and open my mind to behold Nereids, these daughters of the sea, flowing hair in locks, eyes of pearl and beryl. Suddenly I gasp, sucking in the burning air of the smoldering Troy, as a shadow appears in the sun and I watch as a man falls from the sky, trailing feathers. I think of the mighty phoenix, but I see Daedalus instead, as he passes over to the other side. I can't be still. I cannot control this wandering. What is this power over me that pulls me in one direction but drags me back into another? For a still moment, a clarity sweeps over my being, but alas, it vanishes. The inside me had almost become aware that it was separate from the outside me. But the Norns cast forth their light, and I returned to my cave, a shadow sitting with others on the wall. What is this incessant feeling? Why can't I remain still? What sorcery has Medusa seen that my thoughts petrify into fears and doubt? In my mind, I am Hathor and Hecate, the hunter and huntress. I swim these mental currents and stop at the pools to peer at my reflections, but see only a serpent of flame and a seraph on fire. I gasp, finding myself as the wicker man set on fire before a crowd of soulless husks who scream for my death. In panic, I summon the Samson in me and escape the wicker pillars before fleeing into the cave of the Sibyl. But she shakes her finger and tilts her smoke-filled lips as Dante escorts me out the door. I stumble out into the light to see Hephaestus, holding an ancient clock, its sigils being the events of my life. He showed me the hour of my soul, and I ran. My feet hit the track and a sea of faceless heads roared as I passed Apollo in a foot race on the Olympiad. Apollyon and I passed Hesiod and Theognis as Aristophanes slowed to catch a bird, and Homer let us pass, laughing heartily, which unnerved me. But his humor passed me in the form of Achilles, whose heels beat us all. So I pulled to the side to catch my breath and was surrounded by Egyptians from the Old Kingdom. They pushed unfamiliar objects into my mouth. I tried to struggle, but wrappings held me fast. A cocoon. As I was lowered into a coffin, a wind swept me across a vast sea. In the north, I landed among a strange people as their leader laughed. Loki took me to a forbidden bridge, and we visited Yggdrasil, this mighty tree called Mount Meru in another world. It was there I saw the door, trimmed in elves, knob of anvil, and inlaid with a great hammer. Beautiful Valkyries gazed down at me with interest. I read the runes and stepped toward this Valhalla, but was instantly distracted by a hauntingly deep music. Little people marched and I fell in among them, our band growing in numbers as we followed a piper to the wall, where I fell in among the shadows. Surrounded by shadows on a dark wall they all believed was home. At Bifrost I stood before Loki and we laughed, for he made me to understand the designs of his webs, how he tricked the Overseer. He broke the seals and unleashed Ragnarok once the halls of Valhalla blew the horns, welcoming warriors, bards, and Valkyries to shed their disguises as the Midgard serpent howled. And so I saw the future by looking at the past, and realized that a vision is but a memory intact. My understanding opened, so I looked upon my guide, but the trickster only smiled as the Norns laughed at the sky. On the wings of this laughter I rode upon the back of a cherub, and I did fly. I flew upon the wings of the wind and saw the marvels of Daedalus, this machinery of the sky, to the labyrinth of the Minotaur. The horned one roared, knowing I knew the designs of deceit, and this rage melted the wax of my wings, and I fell from the sky. As Archaix I splashed into the northern sea, and joined a band of Geats in the dens of Grendel. I did what Hrothgar could not do. With an artifact upon the wall, I slew the beast that sent kings running, and the distant sons of my son's sons called me Beowulf, the scion of Sigurd, the giant slayer. And others called me Bilgamesh when I traveled far to reach the home of Utnapishtim and to learn of this plant of eternal life. But Nereus told me of the fleece, and as Jason I navigated the unknown seas to the 12 mansions with my trusted Argonauts to find a golden sign and bring meaning to my life. But I've fallen overboard this ship of fools to plunge into a sea of sharks. But I am not food for the wicked and will not cringe before a kraken. I float onward in a current that propels me through this abyss, the silent ruin of an unknown Atlantis passing away beneath me, the deep keeping hold of its dead. And floating through this wine-dark sea, I still heard Loki laugh. In sinking into the black abyss, I suddenly blinked in the sunlit glen amidst an ancient haunt. The secrets of Caer She of the old Celts did I possess. I was Taliesin, the blood of Gaul, listening in rapt silence in the hidden grove, for I do not vouchsafe my secrets to slaves. In me they saw a warlock. My spells do shatter the scales on blinded eyes, encircled by enemies who dare not trespass this holy ground that surrounds my feet. A terrible bard whose paths have not known peace, as I played Conan, hacking my way across the wastes of Samarkand, Aladdin searching for a lamp. In the depths of my mindscape, I run beside Spartacus as we escape this structured madness, joining with Perseus in rescuing those chained to rocks they have fallen victim to as they hid from their krakens. And in the evening campfire, I am Ovid, seeing in nature a poem that was waiting for a pen. I sit in silence with monks, adepts, and sages, and open my eyes to see the Buddha offer me a smile. I sit in this van, moving, traveling from coordinate to coordinate within an avatar whose mind has gone another way. Within the confines of my mind I travel. There is no end to the pull, this tug-of-war that won't let me concentrate. It is when I am moving that I am most alive. When I sit still, it is something that strives to move me. But I see the weakness of this dungeon, the gate that can't be shut. I smile at this riddle that is Ragnarok and await the horns that usher in thereafter, when the mask of Loki is removed, as the heavens echo with the trickster's laughter. The instant you acknowledge something, you crystallize it into your reality. See something that you perceive as negative or harmful, then it takes up those properties as applied to you, and reality knits them into your experience. You have set in stone for you what is not so affixed to others. We participate in creating reality all the time. So wonderful, so receptive is this holography of infinite potential that it is shaped and modified by souls that have found themselves within it. The world around us reflects back as life the impressions it received from us. Those imposing their beliefs that the world is a construct set to devour them are victims of a feedback loop first imported into this holofield by someone who had taught that. But you don't have to believe it. The world is bigger than the projections you attempt to place upon it. Quit walking through life absorbing the energies of other souls, because this creates for you a life of merely reacting to external stimuli. Instead, emit your own power. Be a beacon of energetic, imaginative ideas and desires. Broadcast your wants through your activities. An unhappy receiver or a happy siren of spiritual broadcasting that brings into your life those things wanted and similar in nature. Our reality is 0.0001% physical, and everything you perceive is actually projected from within you and the others that are in your simulated world. That this world is a mental construct with virtually no physical barriers means that you have the opportunity to alter your life. Or you can let the news networks, opinions of friends, attitudes of neighbors, preconceived notions, religious teachings of guilt, or false scientific theories build your life for you. Choose your life as it is and remain where you are, or wake up and become a power station of new thinking that will quickly knit for you new circumstances and new opportunities, because from the beginning, the obstacles were all self-created. I imagine we have it all wrong. What loving God would make a great white shark, or the predator versus prey ecosphere? Where is divinity in the wolf tearing apart the rabbit? No, I imagine that this clever world creation was made to deceive us, to keep us preoccupied, a prison for immortal spirits who must find their own way while bludgeoned with false beliefs, blaming themselves for their own condition. What else would the perfect deceiver do? He would make a world so beautiful it would trick us through sense perceptions to think it was real, while actually containing all the evidence of violence that is the true watermark of its creator. A prison of souls disguised. The deeper we penetrate the architecture of reality, the more we come in contact with coincidences that defy rational conclusions, sentience ensnared in webs of deceit. We traverse through life within a fixed medium of probability molds that take on predictive values the more we recognize their presence. If I was a diabolical mind who had trapped immortal beings in physical bodies and convinced them they were lost and had to be saved, then I would also have to make for them a world that would sufficiently convince them that it was just a ball in space surrounded by a universe that was also physical. But I believe the stars lie, that we are immortals temporarily imprisoned in flesh, and that the signature of our spirithood is our personality. The personality is unique, bodies are not. To see clearly, first you have to admit that you are inside a vast, cleverly built simulation. There can be no objective answer as to the why of it. Perhaps it's not meant to be escaped from, but a repository for immortal souls to grow before we move on to our destinations. Hidden secrets in ancient texts have always told the tales of worlds that were beyond our own, of portals, gates, and gods. Stories that concealed the truth in fable, myth, and lore. We are in a make-believe, a labyrinth, no escape. A maze designed to amaze of kingdoms, cults, and creeds. A dungeon realm filled with delights, deceptions masked as truths, where pain and pleasure mold our minds into blocks we call beliefs. But there's a truth that cannot die unknown, the secret of the Similosphere that has never been our home. We are timeless beings ensnared in dying webs, a world that is unraveling, a prison with an end. Immortals with amnesia, we are more than we have dreamed, eternal personalities. Through grief we're forced to grow. We've lived through scores of lifetimes seeking God in every one, thinking he's been silent, believing he's not there. Lifetimes spent in wandering this soul-devouring lair. We march through life without God, with our guides unseen, who help us on our way. Guardians, guides, and messengers who have always shown the way. We are not forgotten, though we suffer through this maze. We have never been alone through epic years and days, on battlefields in ancient lands and hospitals today. Our Maker has provided paths with lights to lead the way, to render understanding of what our legends do convey, sacred myth and silly fable and depths of parable and ode, of Sisyphus and Minos, dragons, gold, and gods and gain. The truth has never been concealed to those who brave to see, the knowledge hidden in our lore of our identity. You and I are journeymen with many more besides, archaic souls with no memory of prior deaths and lives. But this will cease, the time is short. This world is not our own. We have yet one life to live before this simulation's done. We are more than we suppose ourselves to be. My name is Jason, but who I am is not apparent. Living in the present moment is not a practice that I have mastered. With my eyes I gaze upon a beautiful veil, an inner haunting whispering that things I see are not as they pretend to be. What is this insatiable curiosity? Why does my heart deny the evidence of my senses? How did I become so disconnected from the synthetic associations I see all around me? I meet another human and they instantly flee, sensing a deviation they misunderstand. They walk away, not understanding that I looked at the structuring of their personality, for I'm blind to the cultural dressings that mean so much to the living dead. When I come in contact with other souls, I see their guardedness, the layers they have armored themselves within. My own soul cries a lamentation of loneliness, though I sit in a room full of spirits too busy being people. A curse on this divinity. My immortality has uncovered this vast gulf of what I am compared to what I want to be. These traits of a God within that just seeks to be one of the herd. But I don't fit in. The magnitude of my understanding has hollowed my heart, this engine that keeps me alive, this undead machine that I'm trapped inside. Heavy is the head who wears the crown is an old saying, it's not mine. Heavy is the heart who peers through the veil. The weight of the past has impressed upon my soul this wearisome fortitude to share what others are prepared to receive while swallowing this acid of information I dare not convey. Sometimes I curse this God, this scribe who has etched his revelations upon the gossamer fragility of my spirit, as if I was strong enough to bear them. I revolt against this peace, the path that I have fought. The insincerity in others fuels the furnace within me. I betray myself every time I bite my tongue. I try to be free of anger as I censure these puppets of a pretended reality who seem to have no purpose other than getting in my way. I am a ghost dragging chains that I despise, a phantom of what I want to be but seem to never become. At this crossroads, I stand at the river Styx, looking back on a past I can't believe I survived and a future I don't want to endure. Not in these garments. Who I am cannot be separated from who I strive to be, but the distance between the two souls widens the more I strive to join one with the other. Though I am told I am alive, the inner chords of a silent song within my soul sings to me otherwise. I am a shadow unable to comprehend the light, a corrupted vessel meant to hold something entirely else. My name is Jason, but this is the name of a shell that enshrouds a thing I can't define. I am me, though what I am is still unknown to me, clinging to the lies I thought were truths that I've often sought. A curse on this treacherous curiosity. I study myself, my environment, and those other souls that sail the simulated sea. I search and notice how unreal are my experiences, that I am most alive in my moments of solitude, my silent time spent with myself. When I focus on something, I'm alive. But when I begin to study the world around me, one of two things happens. My mind drifts back through time to the past, and I relive memories, or I am thrust far into the future by the fertility of my imagination. Both are just as real to me as many of my moments spent in this false reality. Though I am more than I suppose myself to be, the potential I acquire in the day is erased by this simulacrum when I sleep. No matter my gains, this nervous system anchors me to a sea I no longer want to swim. But I cling to this buoy, adrift in this abyss, unable to let go and sink into the comfortable deep until I know for sure that I have reached every soul I was meant to touch. I'm ready to go, but my life is not my own. I yearn for what my potential foreshadows, eager to be more than I've become while weighed down by the knowledge I know that in this life it won't come to pass. Break free or die trying, my friends.